Just use the soda out, please. Thank you. Choose to start out, please. Thank you. Please, thank you. quickly go up the side aisle. Side aisle, please. Choose the side aisle, please. Thank you. Seven's going to speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin our services, if we can please kindly turn off all cell phones or electronic devices, or please place them on silent. Thank you.
Es ein Nail Harim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri Me'im Adonai Ose Shamayim Shamayim Va'aretz Alitein Lamot Rablecha Ayanu Shomer Yisrael Adonai Shomecha Adonai Tzilcha Al Yad Yeminecha Yomam HaShemesh Lo Yakeka V'yareach Balayla Adonai Yishmorcha Mikora Yishmor et nafshecha Adonai Yishmor tzedkecha Uroecha Me'ata v'yad olam.
I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. As I was speaking with Bruce and Lance the other day, as they were sharing memories of their mom, Bernice, I asked them about a running theme that went through her life, this idea of optimism and care, not only for her family, but basically for anyone and everyone that she met along the way, wherever she was. And framing her life with Jewish text became very easy because there's a beautiful reading from the book of Proverbs known as Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, that speaks so fully to Bernice's life. A woman of valor who can find? She is more precious than any pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom, the law of kindness always on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband has sung her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly but you have excelled them all. And turning back to our Psalms, I invite you to join me in Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The question that we are presented with this morning is, how does one truly sum up a life? The Torah portion that we read yesterday morning on Shabbat was Hayei Sarah, a portion whose name means the life of Sarah. And yet the portion began with the death of our first matriarch. Torah shares that Sarah lived 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. And much is written about why we aren't simply told that she lived to 127, about why the years of her life are shared as they were, 120 and 7. But most telling here is that her life is measured by the years she lived. Each number a treasure, each segment of her life meaningful in a different way. Each chapter of her life special in its own right. And as we gather this morning to remember Bernice and to honor the life she lived, we recognize that her lifetime is so much more than the 92 years she lived. It is the family that she and Herbert raised, her children, Lance and Barbara, Bruce, Carol, along with Cynthia and Rick, her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, along with her nieces and nephews and cousins. It's the work she did as an entrepreneur with her husband and as an executive secretary at American Honda. But mostly it is the kind of person she was, which shone through every part of her life. She was truly the matriarch of your family, and she loved celebrating any and all simchas and holidays with you. And as I spoke with Bruce and with Lance the other day, you both shared with me that it was your mother's optimism and her deep and genuine care for other people that will be most remembered. Your mom raised you with a deep-seated message that you could accomplish anything, but that doing your best was what was most important. As a loving grandmother, she would send letters to her grandchildren in college just to offer messages of encouragement. And Bernice was someone who delighted in talking to everyone. She loved to get people to talk about themselves, to share their story with her. And no matter what they shared, Bernice would do her best to assure them that life would turn out all right. Even life's challenges were met with that sense of optimism. And it was in Herbert that she found the love of her life. Having met him, I'm told, on Broad Street at the Jewish Y, introduced by her sister. They had a unique and truly inseparable relationship. They loved traveling together and spending time with their children and grandchildren. Bernice was a hands-on grandmother, taking care of her grandchildren, teaching them the value of money, even as they took the grandkids to game rooms to play. She was a fun grandparent who would drive around and simply sing songs. And when it came to adding to their family with the addition of stepchildren, to her, everyone was simply family. There were no distinctions made, and if it was up to her, she would have had even more family around. That certainly doesn't mean that things were always easy. 2 of her children predeceased her, and there were also times when she chose to sacrifice a lot for her children, supporting them financially during med school, working hard to help her kids, truly being a caretaker for everyone, while often sacrificing her own needs and desires. She very much always wanted to help others. Even at work, she cared about the people who worked under her, about their personal lives and what they were going through. And she loved being with family, even if she often insisted on not intruding. Lance shared that he and Barbara would often see their parents driving by their house, but they wouldn't come and knock on the door or even stop the car, not wanting to intrude. As Lance shared, if we could catch them, we could bring them inside, but often it was simply a drive-by. And when her husband passed away, Bernice moved back to the Cherry Hill area from Florida. She would often go to the Wegmans coffee shop just to talk to people. She was like the mayor of Wegmans. She would talk to whomever would sit down next to her, find out about their lives, and leave them with a message of encouragement or comfort. And you both also gave your mom one of the greatest gifts with your daily visits to have lunch with her. She would ask how your day was going, if you were busy, but mostly loved as you shared with me, knowing that the two of you were staying close. You also were able to follow her wishes of being able to stay in her own home with the help of caregivers who also helped give her the feeling of independence, even in her final years, being able to get out of the house, to get her hair and nails done, or to simply go for a drive. She was able to see medical school graduations, b'nai mitzvah, weddings, the birth of grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She was able to go on vacation with family, celebrate her 90th birthday with a big celebration before everything shut down due to COVID, and she got to share many special times and occasions with friends and family. Bernice spent her lifetime showing through her own example how much it means to share a word of encouragement, to inspire a little more optimism, and to simply care about another person and to love them freely. As Bruce shared, hers was a life well lived. We now call upon Bruce to share a few words of memory.
Thank you, Rabbi. You certainly captured so much of what I want to say about my mom as well. And I appreciate all of your help today. I'm not the public speaker of the family. I leave that to my children. But I do want to leave some words about my mom and the people person that she was and how she did love people so much. So I just wanted to I just want to thank you for coming and anyone who's viewing to celebrate the long life of my mom. She was truly a wonderful, caring person to everyone she would meet. It didn't matter who you were or where you came from. She would sit and talk and get to know something about your life, no matter if it was something happy or sad. She had the great gift as a supportive, good listener. This also showed by her caring and optimistic view that everything happens for a reason and that everything would work out all right. She shared that view with her loving family members, as well as all the strangers she would meet. She grew up in Camden with her mother and 3 siblings. Her mom worked as a hairdresser in a hairdressing shop to support the family. It was very important to her mom that she would develop a skill to be able to support herself if was needed. She attended secretarial program and excelled in typing and shorthand. Our home was always filled with scribble and doodle all over the place because it was all about her shorthand, and it was hard to believe it was actually a language. My mom and dad had a really inseparable life. Their marriage was wonderful. They did everything together. As the rabbi mentioned, they met at the Jewish Y on Broad Street in Philadelphia and were fantastic dancers. They built their life together with some hardships along the way, but they always did everything together. During the early years, my parents were risk takers, and my mom was even very creative. She had a few inventions of her own. She had made those inventions were special to her. However, her timing did not always work out so well. She created artificial flower arrangements. Then she created a doll that actually needed a diaper, and you can imagine why. Then she had a packaging system that they developed for 10-cent toys, and it was really a business that they created together. That was called Gooby Enterprises. Then they even took a big risk and moved to California for a year and started a startup for vitamins, before vitamins were very popular. Once again, they were ahead of their time. And they came back. We were fortunate about that. Having 4 children so close in age had to be so challenging during those early years. As we got older, we didn't have the usual structure and rules when growing up, but certainly knew what was expected. That was because of her wisdom of life, of teaching the value of knowing right from wrong. That freedom is really hard to imagine in this day and age when all activities are organized, and especially if we didn't have cell phones. Although most moms in her day were homemakers, she was looking for some extra income for some support services for my late brother Rick at that time. She started in a small office in Pennsauken as the only secretary for a Japanese boss who really didn't speak English very well. That small company where she worked for the next 27 years was American Honda. They only made motorcycles back then. She helped her boss adjust to life in the United States, and he actually climbed to the top position in Honda. And he was very, very, very appreciative of what she did to help him along. She went on to become the supervising secretary of 20 women at Honda as the company grew with offices and warehouses the size of a football field. Those Honda dealerships all over the world knew that they could depend on her to find any part that they needed. But more important for her was the support of the young women that she had helped in their jobs as well in their personal lives, and there were lots of stories about their personal lives. My parents had a wonderful life together and enjoyed the many holidays and special occasions together with family. But what they really loved were all their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And Mom was especially blessed with being able to be at all of her grandchildren's weddings, as well as the arrival of many of the great-grandchildren. They also loved going on many car rides together, and I think they stopped at most diners in New Jersey. They also enjoyed motorcycle rides with her on the back, and that was Honda's, of course. They also enjoyed their great time together at their shore house in Atlantic City. And the family vacations, which were so helpful to us and so enjoyable to have her along. My mom's optimism was really tested with the early death of her only daughter, Cindy. They were very close, and even with her moving to Florida, with her family moving to Florida, she really loved visiting there with Michael and Jenna. But she handled the loss by reminding herself that 49 years ago, after having 3 boys, that she finally got the girl that she had prayed for. But then God decided to take her back. And as she always said, we plan and God laughs. After moving from Pennsauken, they lived in a 55 and over community in Williamstown. When my dad finally did pass, she decided to move closer to us and moved to a new community in Cherry Hill where the old racetrack was, which was so close to Lance and my own office. She loved being one of the original people living there, but was disappointed that the clubhouse was not built because of legal issues, as was promised. She had hoped to meet people there and join some of the activities there, and become part of the clubhouse with sewing and knitting and enjoying the indoor pool, but that never happened, unfortunately. But instead, she was happy with her trips to Wegmans, talking to everyone, listening to country music, and reading lots of romantic novels. She had also learned to use the computer and really enjoyed connecting on Facebook. But her favorite pastime was day trading on the stock market. We were so lucky to be able to spend her 90th birthday party 1 month before the world shut down because of COVID. And she was able to see so many family members and friends. A special thanks to Johanna for her many years of taking care of my mom, especially getting her out to have her hair and nails done, which was so important to her. Also the recent help from Janice and Cheryl and the aides from Olive that allowed her to live in her home and stay in her home where she really, really loved. I feel very fortunate to have had so many years with my mom. Even as her memory faded over the past few years, I was still able to enjoy time with her and Lance at lunchtime. She would repeat stories and questions, of course, but always wanted to know how everybody in the family was doing. She was really a caring person about everyone. Her favorite last saying as we left each day was always stay out of harm's way and to continue to make memories with your families. So we say goodbye, Mom, and we thank you for all the memories you gave us.
We now call upon Barbara to share some memories. A dear friend of mine told me that I hit the mother-in-law lottery when I married Lance. And I know Carol feels the same way. Bernice was like a mother to me. She was charming, she was kind, she was loving, and she would always share her pearls of wisdom. She had a smile that lit up the room, and that smile was brightest when she was with her family, especially her children. Bernice was the matriarch of the family. She was honored to carry the Torah at our Steinberg cousins' wedding. And not weddings, I'm sorry, not the weddings, the bar mitzvahs and the bat mitzvahs. She had a smile, one of her favorite trips was to Israel for Jason's bar mitzvah at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. I remember the first time I met Lance's parents. We walked into the living room of their house on Sherwood Terrace. Bernice was sitting on Herbie's lap. Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. I thought we were interrupting something. Lance assured me by saying, "Oh, they do that all the time." And I was thinking, who does that? Well, Herbie and Bernice do that. Bernice loved dancing, and she taught Lance how to dance. And Lance, yes, I'm going to tell everybody that you were the Pennsauken class of 1970 best dancer. And now, Bernice's grandson, Harlan, where's Harlan? Oh, there he is. He has that talent as well. And we have videos from Lauren and Oliver's wedding to prove it. He also won a best dancer contest at Tavistock Country Club on Halloween. You may not know this, but Bernice loved country music. In fact, all of her radio station settings in her car were to the same country music station, XTU in Philadelphia. Who does that? Bernice does. I remember being in synagogue for a bat mitzvah, and Lance put his arm around me. Now keep in mind, I'm a good little Catholic girl.
I responded by saying, "Not here." And Bernice turned around and said, "Why not here?" Who does that? Bernice does. Bernice valued education and had definite ideas when it came to her children's careers. Lance showed me family movies of his childhood birthdays. Each year, he got a doctor's bag. He later asked his mom, "What is it with the doctor bags?" She responded, "What, you thought that was your idea?" Who does that? Bernice does. Bernice wrote our daughter, Kathleen, as was mentioned by the rabbi, letters of encouragement when she was in college. Bernice absolutely loved graduations. She attended her children's and her grandchildren's graduations from high school, college, graduate schools, law school, and medical school. She traveled as far away as Wisconsin in December with a foot of snow on the ground to attend Kathleen's college graduation. In fact, and this cracks me up, she went to my Drexel graduation when I got my MBA, and I was 48 years old. Who does that? Bernice does. Bernice felt it was important, as you age, to keep your mind sharp and your body active. More recently, Bernice advised Lance and me not to retire from our jobs. Lance responded by saying, "But Mom, you retired." And Bernice responded by saying, "And that was a mistake." Who says that? Bernice does. Every day, Bernice would visit her mother, who was in her 90s, at the nursing home, and often with Evan and Marcy in tow. And now, up until a few days ago, Bruce and Lance would visit their mom at lunchtime every single workday. And they visited every weekend, often with great-grandchildren in tow. Who does that? Bernice did, and Lance and Bruce do. Finally, we found Lance and I found an envelope in Bernice's night table a few nights ago, and it was marked "Some of My Treasures." In it were family photographs of Herbie, their children, the grandchildren, and our California cousins. There was also a poem that I will now read, if I can get through it. It's entitled, "For Those I Love, for Those Who Love Me." When I am gone, release me, let me go. I have so many things to see and do. You mustn't tie yourself to me with tears. Be happy, we had so many years. I gave you my love, you can only guess how much you gave me in happiness. I thank you for the love you each have shown, but now it's time I travel on alone. So grieve a while for me if grieve you must, then let your grief be comforted by trust. It's only for a while that we must part, so bless the memories that lie within your heart. I won't be far away, for life goes on. So if you need me, call, and I will come. Though you can't see me or touch me, I'll be near. And if you listen with your heart, you'll hear all of my love around you, soft and dear.
We now call up Evan and Marcy.
My grandma was the epitome of the quintessential grandmother. I know I only knew her as a grandparent, but I'm pretty sure this role was made for her. Even when she met our friends, she told them to call her grandma. When we were kids, Evan and I used to go to her and Zeta's house every weekend. They took us to the Morristown Mall, where they got us McDonald's, went with us to look at puppies, and sat patiently while we played endless amounts of games in the arcade. She cooked us breakfasts and dinners and always let us have chocolate milk. At night, while we watched our favorite TV shows, she gave us plastic baggies filled with candy, M&Ms for me and Skittles for Evan, and told us to eat as much as we wanted. Grandma and Zeta also used to take us on drives around New Jersey where we would sing songs in the car like Who's That Doggy in the Window? And we would bring carrots to feed horses on someone's property. Grandma was always in a good mood and happy to do anything we wanted. She taught us great life lessons about saving money and constantly told us how much she loved us. When I got older, we started going out to lunch at the Cherry Hill Diner, where we would both get waffles with extra powdered sugar. After I caught her up on what was going on in my life, I would ask her to tell me stories about her life growing up and her different friends and family members. Over the past 10 years, it's been so great watching her enjoy all of her great-grandchildren because it reminded me of all of our special times together when I was little. I'm so lucky she was able to be at my wedding, and I can only hope Matt and I are half as happy as she and Zeta were.
Thank you everyone for coming today, and Rabbi Cantor, sorry for all the noise from the kiddos, but I think Grandma would be really happy to have all those kids making that noise, so sorry about that. I'm really grateful to be able to speak about Grandma today because we always had a very special relationship. Maybe it's because I'm her third child, and she herself was the third child, all out of 4, or maybe that's just a coincidence. But I think everyone knows that I was always her favorite. So. It's tough to talk about Grandma without including Zeta, especially as Marcy said. We spent pretty much every single weekend with them growing up. And we loved every single moment of that time. We didn't even fight that much when we were together. I mean, who doesn't love being spoiled by their grandparents, especially Grandma? She could never tell us how much she loved us too many times. She taught me about unconditional love because she said that there was nothing we could do to make her love us less. Even though I'd come up with crazy examples to try to test that theory, but she always won out. In retrospect, she also helped me learn about the different ways to express love. She taught me about the 5 love languages before I even had a name for them. As mentioned, lots of quality time together. She was never short on words of affirmation. Acts of service were never ending, either for us or my parents. She was always willing to sleep over at our house if our parents were getting away. Even though Zeta wanted to stay in his own bed, she'd still come over. Physical touch in the form of hugs, kisses, holding hands, and patting butts way longer than we needed. She always wanted to give us gifts. She couldn't always afford the ridiculous things that we wanted, but she knew how to make us both happy. As Marcy mentioned, she always wanted M&Ms, I always wanted Skittles. Not sure why, I didn't think I liked M&Ms at the time. Some of my best memories of Grandmom are the little things in life, like sitting in the booth in her kitchen on Sherwood Terrace, making chocolate milk with chocolate syrup from a can, making scrambled eggs and toast together for dinner, eating chicken legs that she made us, and then she would finish them off because she didn't think we ate enough meat off of them. The things that she endured in her life affected the way that she treated us. She told us that when she grew up during the Great Depression, there was very little food available. So it was really important to her parents that she ate everything she was given. But she always told us to eat as much or as little as she wanted because those were both options that she was not given growing up. I'm not sure if it's for that reason or another, but she would pretty much eat anything. Though she said she didn't care for squash, but she'd still eat it. She enjoyed food, but she was messy, probably where I got that from. She always said that her clothes ate better than she did. One thing Grandma liked to do with us was go to the mall, like Marcy said. We would go to the Morristown Mall to play at the arcade, or we'd go to the Cherry Hill Mall and swing on trees in the food court. And we'd go to the pet store, we'd go to that old Warner Brothers store, and she would just follow us around, let us do whatever we wanted to do. And then, as mentioned, on the way home, we would sing lots of fun songs. When Grandma and Zeta moved to Williamstown, it felt so far away, even though it's not that far. But it did make seeing them after Tall Pine State Camp, where summers are magical, much easier. And then we spent lots of time at Keith's Diner. As I got older, I didn't spend as much time with Grandma, but we had incredibly quality time together. even if that just meant telling her about the mundane ins and outs of my days, or we would just cuddle together on the couch. We ended up with a lot of time with Grandmom without Zeta. It's hard to believe, but over half my life has been spent with just Grandmom since Zeta has died. Unbeknownst to Grandmom, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety my first year of college, and we were at the celebration for my 19th birthday at Famous Dave's, and she decided to tell me that she was going to die soon, and that made me very distraught. But luckily, don't worry, I was fine. And I had nothing to worry about because we got 10 plus more years, and they were good years with her. So the reason she told me that is because she didn't think she was ever going to live this long. She never wanted to make it to 90, but she made the best of it. She was happy. And she told Dina and I that from now on, every birthday she was getting younger instead of older. She was tired of getting older. She got to be part of many momentous occasions and celebrations, from B'nai Mitzvot to graduations and weddings and to the births of many great-grandchildren. It was as if she kept trying to just get around to that one more thing. But she couldn't go on forever, and though I'm glad that she got to be at Marcy's wedding, I think that was really special. And she couldn't really hear what was said, but she was still really happy to be there. And I'm really happy that she got to see my children. I have to brag about myself because Grandmom isn't here to do it. She always says she wished I was twins because I was so good, which reaffirms my favorite status. And then Dina and I had twins, so she kind of got her wish. And she was happy to see them and be with them, though she had a really tough time with the name Micah, so she called them Ruth and Michael. But it's okay. As my dad mentioned, her memory started to go. It became a little bit more taxing to have conversations, but the same loving, caring, genuine, cool as a cucumber person always shone through. She was so chill about most things. She wouldn't usually tell us what she wanted unless she was really pressed on it. For example, we called her Grandmom for my whole life, but when I was bringing Dina around, and the great-grandkids call her Grammy, but I was bringing Dina around, and she was asking what should we call her, and she said, well, I've always wanted to be called Grams, but she never told us that before. Grandmom had a truly full life, more years than she could have ever imagined, most of them really good years, and I am so appreciative of the quantity and quality of time we had together. From the time she cared for me, helped shape me into the person I am today, to the time when I gave her more physical support through helping her walk and driving her places. But she always gave me wisdom and love and joy. She always said she was so lucky to have me, and she was, but in all seriousness, I was beyond lucky to have her, and I'm still for all that she has given me.
Finally, we'll hear from Jason.
Hello, everyone. My grandmom was the most loving woman I've ever known. For my entire life, any time that I came into her presence, she would greet me with a smile that could light up a room. She always had a kind word, and in my presence at least, I don't think that I've ever heard her criticize or condemn anyone. But if she heard something she didn't like, you could hear her roll her eyes. There was only one time I saw her get really angry. It was so rare that it made such an impression that I still remember it to this day. I must have only been about 6 or 7 years old, and she took me to buy my first bicycle. She didn't know it, but she parked illegally behind Discount Harry's. We put the bike on layaway, and if you don't know what layaway is, you can ask your parents or maybe just Google it. But when we got back to the car, there was a parking ticket on the windshield, and she was livid. I mean, I think this might have been the only time I think she was swearing and just talking about how expensive this ticket was. And I was in the back seat and started crying because I thought that this meant that she couldn't afford the bike. So she sees me crying and she turns around to the back seat and tells me that I was still going to get the bike and that everything was going to be okay, but we couldn't tell Zeta about the ticket. When I was young, I spent a lot of time at my grandmom's house. I remember her and my Zeta together. They loved each other so much. I remember sometimes, and I don't know if it would come on, if they would put it on or if it would come on the TV, but whenever this like big band music or some music, I don't know, from like the 30s or 40s or whatever would start playing, they would just get up and start dancing right there on the living room floor. And then they would start kissing. And then it would get embarrassing. But it was very sweet to know that they still loved each other so much. Above all, it was her family that brought her the most joy. She expressed her love for us all in so many ways. For her children, it was love and support and a whole lot of encouragement. And for us grandchildren, it started with sleepovers at Grandmom and Zeta's and grew to being there at every milestone in our lives, always smiling and ready to tell us how proud and happy she was and how much she loved us. She lived and loved for us all. She would ask me the same question every time I saw her. Lately, she would ask it over and over and over again, but the question she always asked was, "Are you happy?" And when I would tell her, "Yes, I'm happy," she would always say, "Good, because if you're happy, then I'm happy." Even though this is a sad day and I'll miss her a lot, I find solace in knowing that overall she lived a long and happy life. Like all lives, that happiness was mixed with tragedy, maybe hers more than most, with the passing of my Aunt Cindy and Uncle Ricky. But even with such tragedy she endured with a joyous exuberance for life that was infectious. Her joy became your joy. When she was happy at a family event, greeting her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, she would just radiate happiness. I mean, really, it was like over the top. And sometimes I would even wonder, like, why is she so happy? But now I know. She knew something then that I didn't know at the time. Every time she hugged us, every time she smiled, she was leaving an indelible touch on this world and through the family that she loved so much, an enduring legacy. Thank you.
Shadows falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. Keep me in your heart for a while. When you get up in the morning and you see that crazy sun, keep me in your heart for a while. There's a train leaving nightly, called when all is said and done. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sometimes when you're doing simple things around the house, maybe you'll think of me and smile. You know I'm tied to you like the buttons on your blouse. Keep me in your heart for a while. Hold me in your thoughts, take me to your dreams, touch me as I fall into view. When the winter comes, keep the fires lit, and I will be right next to you. Engine drivers headed north to Pleasant Stream, keep me in your heart for a while. These wheels keep turning, but they're running out of steam. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart for a while. Keep me in your heart for a while.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. I invite you to please rise for our memorial chant of El Mole Rachamim.
תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מסעירים את נשמת ברניס שהלכה לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר אמן.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Bernice Gooberman, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul always be bound up in the bonds of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she now rest in peace. And together we say, Amen. Please be seated. Interment will follow our chapel service at Crescent Memorial Park in Pennsauken.
Will the pallbearers please step to the center aisle? No, last thing, we can rise once more, please.
now she's young thing giving my said Limon Shimo Gam Kiere against some mother to low.
Cemetery ceremony, everyone's led back to 35 Road in Hatfield, where there'll be a luncheon back there. And cemetery service. Folks in this row, in the second row, please start with public part, please.
What do you need?